I work in a newsroom with anchors, researchers and scriptwriters, graphic artists, producers, video editors, camera crew. But does a newsroom really need them today?
All of us have to think about unique and distinctive value addition that cannot be automated or repeated or replaced by a machine.
ChatGPT may kill many companies.
A human has to be in the loop with an ability to control this.
Dark Side of the Boom. Streaming now.
The following content may contain visuals that are disturbing, graphic, or sensitive in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. This material is intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for all viewers. Please exercise caution while watching, and if you find such content distressing, we recommend discontinuing viewing. This disclaimer is provided to ensure awareness and to prioritize viewer well-being.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Newsline Live with me, Neha Khanna. Let's get you all the top national and international stories that we're tracking. The war between Israel and Hamas has entered its 48th day. Israel says it has arrested the director of Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza. A number of other doctors at the hospital have also been detained. The Israeli army says Hamas was using a tunnel complex beneath the hospital in Gaza to plan its attacks. Meanwhile, the planned exchange of some Palestinians held in Israeli prisons for Israeli hostages has been delayed until Friday. Reports say the exercise has been delayed because of technical issues and because the operational plan for the release of the hostages is not yet ready. Also, Israel is yet to receive the list of names of the hostages who are going to be released by Hamas. Israel's Supreme Court has meanwhile rejected an appeal to block the release of Palestinian prisoners from Israeli jails. Also, the war against Hamas continues unabated. Prime Minister Netanyahu has said Israel is winning the war and will continue to fight until it has achieved a complete victory. Israeli forces continue attacking the Gaza Strip from land, sea and air ahead of the temporary truce. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, over 14,000 Palestinians have been killed in the war with Israel, with close to 6,000 of them being children. Meanwhile, the Israeli Defense Forces have lost at least 69 soldiers in their ground operation. The delay in the ceasefire and the hostage deal was announced by the Israeli National Security Advisor Zachi Hanegbi. An Israeli source speaking to Haaretz newspaper said there will be no cessation of hostilities in Gaza until a finalized timeline for the agreement with Hamas has been established. The ceasefire was originally scheduled to commence at 10 a.m. on Thursday, that's today, with the release of the first batch of hostages that was expected. Consequently, there is no halt in the fighting between Israel and Hamas for now, with the deal having been put off by at least a day. The Israeli army has revealed a reinforced tunnel located beside Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza. The tunnel, located underneath a house in the lane parallel to Al-Shifa, is equipped with facilities such as a bathroom, kitchen and an air-conditioned meeting room. Now, according to the Israeli Defense Forces spokesperson Daniel Hagari, this tunnel served as a command post for Hamas fighters. Accessible through an outdoor shaft in the hospital complex grounds, the area was once densely populated by Palestinians who have now been displaced or killed amid the ongoing ground operations by the Israeli army.
In the Shifa Hospital compound, we're underneath the ground. We are approximately between the Qatarian building is above us, and this is the way to the street, meaning this is a way that goes outside from the hospital. We are talking about a tunnel which is more than this, only this specific area is more than 300 meters of a tunnel. So this area goes directly outside of the hospital approximately to one of the areas outside, maybe a mosque, maybe an apartment, and it's blocked. It's blocked and sealed. They knew that we were going to come here more than a month ago, and they sealed it. And now we're going to see the infrastructure of the tunnel. This tunnel is a complex tunnel. It's not the ones that we know. It's more convenient for long living, like you have toilets and you have rooms that were built in order to contain people. But this room is an operational room that had communication with electricity provided from the sources of the hospital, meaning the hospital is providing electricity. This room was evacuated and all the gear was evacuated. I guess it was evacuated when they knew or understand that we're going to enter into Shifa Hospital. You can see how long it is. The warriors in front of us are going inside the tunnel. You can see a small kitchen. So it will provide them food, water, etc. All these facilities of water and food are coming from the hospital, meaning they're using the hospital infrastructures. They're using the hospital infrastructures in order to provide this terror mechanism to stay alive and survive. I want to show you more rooms. More rooms. This is a room, where you can sleep, eat, make command control. It also has an air conditioning. This air conditioning goes above the hospital. One of the reasons that allows us to understand this complex is that we found the engine of the air conditioner, of course, outside, next to the Qatari compound, inside the hospital. Electricity, full electricity. The gear that was inside here was evacuated before we entered, but look at the ceiling. This is not just a regular tunnel. This is a high facility compound. Also more toilets here. Of course, they tried to seal it. They tried to seal it also with sand and other components that we will not be able to enter here. We evacuated the sand. We open up those entrance so we can go in, but they trying to ruin this tunnel in order for us not to be able to enter. You can see the stairs here going down. Electricity from all over the sides are electricity. All this electricity compound, all this electricity gear, of course, comes out from the hospital. The hospital provides, in that sense, electricity to this terror mechanism of the tunnel. This is a unique signature of the arches. The arches are a unique technique by Hamas, building the tunnels. It's something that was designed in the last 15 years. This unique every area that we see arches are we understand that it assembled, that it has a tunnel next to it. This is how we revealed some of the tunnels, so it's a unique structure of Hamas tunnels in the last 15 years. The warriors, it took time to make sure that this area is not booby-trapped. We were worried that it was booby-trapped. Cleaning this area, opening it so we can go inside, was a huge task for the forces of the special units that were here.
זה לאן לוקח? זה לרחוב? זה לרחוב?
כן, שם יש חסימה ואצלנו זה אפליקציה.
Where the warrior is standing here, it goes directly to the street, meaning it again goes out from the hospital to the north side of the hospital, where we found another tunnel which has an elevator, like the Rantisi tunnel, and it goes up and goes out. So it's all a tunnel systems that ends in the hospital. It's a mechanism of a tunnel system that ends in the hospital. Now we're going to turn left and go out again in the hospital, just to see the size of the tunnel. This is the blast. This is the blast door, the one that we opened, where we have seen in the movie that we reached to the blast door. We took us time to open it. We were making sure it's not booby trapped. These blast doors allows them to prevent blasts by our Air Force, meaning it can maintain the preservation of parts of the tunnel to be protected, and also it's part of fighting. So if an enemy reaches to the door, you can fight him through the door. So it's a really sophisticated mechanism in that sense, designed to fight. And all this mechanism above us is a hospital. Above us, patient, wounded, doctors, all being a human shield for this tunnel system here at Shifa Hospital. The electricity you see is the electricity that provide the communication, the command and control, meaning from those tunnels you can command and control all the terror mechanism waging war outside in Gaza. This is why all the battalion's commander, all the senior commander terrorists came here to command their operation, went outside, went back to the hospital to do command and control.
בפתח יציאה, אי אפשר לעלות מפה כי נסקנו את הסולם, אבל אפשר לתת תמונה של הסולם.
This is the way out with the stairs. This way out, when we entered with the bulldozer, all the sand fell down. So it's not now it's not available to go out. But we will show you, because you remember the movie that we showed with the drone.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the Red Cross will be allowed to visit the remaining hostages in Gaza. He said Israel was winning the war against Hamas and would continue the war until it achieved complete victory.
המתווה שהושג לא יכלול שחרור רוצחים, והוא כן כולל הסכמה של נציגי הצלב האדום, לביקורים יותר נכון של נציגי הצלב האדום אצל החטופים והעברת תרופות אליהם. אני שמעתי שיש מי שכופר על זה. הצלב האדום אמר שהוא לא שמע, אז הנה הסעיף המפורש. יתאפשר לצלב האדום לבקר את יתר החטופים ולספק להם תרופות נחוצות, ואני מצפה שהצלב האדום יעשה את העבודה שלו. אנחנו מנצחים ונמשיך להילחם עד לניצחון המוחלט.
Multiple blasts sounded over the Gaza skyline as plumes of smoke drifted over the embattled enclave ahead of the start of a truce deal between Israel and Hamas. The Israel-Hamas deal was reached early on Wednesday for the freeing of 50 hostages held in Gaza in exchange for the release of 150 Palestinian prisoners who are in Israeli jails. And this is something that is in fact going to be discussed again at a later stage, with Israel saying that with every 10 additional hostages released, there could be an extension of the truce by a day. Now, as part of the current deal, which was due to begin on Thursday, but which has now been put off until Friday, Israel will pause its 7-week-old Gaza war to enable the staggered release of these 50 hostages, all of them women and children, and entry of aid for Palestinians. As of now, the truce will be for 4 days. An Israeli airstrike targeted the Oveda family building in eastern Rafah, resulting in the death of several residents. This event has raised doubts about the effectiveness of the impending truce between Israel and Hamas, scheduled to kick in from Friday. Eyewitnesses in Rafah confirmed the airstrike, leading to skepticism amongst the residents regarding the viability of the proposed 4-day ceasefire. In response to the skepticism, Palestinians have expressed disbelief, emphasizing that the ongoing massacres contradict the notion of a truce. Some said, "What truce are you talking about with these massacres taking place? Is this what you call a truce? These are massacres." Before the truce and after, Israel will continue to commit a genocide. That's what the Palestinians are saying. Now, the ceasefire that has been agreed upon is meant to last 4 days, and it's intended to, as we said, facilitate the delivery of aid into Gaza Strip and the release of 50 hostages held by Hamas in the enclave. Amidst the ongoing Israeli conflict, the residents of Gaza are grappling with fuel shortages, prompting a return to traditional methods for baking bread and preparing limited food supplies. With electricity in short supply, the people of Gaza are increasingly relying on traditional clay ovens. However, the scarcity of resources, especially staple food like bread, remains a major challenge in the shelter camps. A U.S. warship, the USS Thomas Hudner, shot down several Houthi kamikaze drones launched from Yemen over the Red Sea, the United States Central Command said on Thursday. The U.S. Central Command said the drones were shot down while the U.S. warship was on patrol in the Red Sea. No damage or injuries were reported to the ship or its crew. Houthi rebels seized a cargo ship in the Red Sea earlier this week and have previously launched drones that were shot down by U.S. forces. Meanwhile, Argentinian hostages' families have appealed for rescue mediation. The government of Argentina is at its wits' end as far as trying to rescue its 21 citizens in Gaza is concerned. These include 4 minors who are currently being held by Hamas for 7 weeks now.
Michaela Rudaev is a teacher and volunteer at a Jewish community center in Buenos Aires. She decorates the synagogue and organizes events. Her cousin is among the Argentine nationals kidnapped by Hamas a month ago. She last saw him on a family visit to Israel 23 years ago, but they kept in close touch. His name is Leo Rudev. He's 61 years old.
It's a nightmare, isn't it? There are nights I can't sleep. At first I was desperate. On October 7th, he was the first person I sent messages to. I knew he would answer me because he works in security. I said, he has to answer me. But he was the only one who didn't respond.
10-month-old baby Kfir Bibas was also abducted, the youngest of 4 Argentine children and teenagers being held by Hamas. Argentina has the largest Jewish community in Latin America. Michaela is demanding that the Israeli and Argentine governments take action to secure the release of her cousin and the others.
2 weeks ago, the president of Israel promised my uncle they would do everything possible to find my cousin. But it's been a month now and nobody knows anything. So I'm demanding that the Argentine government, the president and the foreign minister please do something instead of just standing behind a microphone.
Earlier this month, President Alberto Fernandez and his foreign minister met with representatives of Jewish organizations. Among them, the delegation of Argentine Jewish associations. Its vice president said they handed over a 58,000-strong petition demanding the release of the hostages. Hopes were raised more than 2 weeks ago after Egypt and Qatar mediated to secure the release of 2 Israeli and 2 American women.
We demand the president exhaust all means at his disposal to make this happen through the United Nations and the International Red Cross. It would be a good thing to make Argentina's voice heard by the countries that are mediating.
Journalist Jaime Rosenberg is covering the case for one of the country's largest daily newspapers, La Nación.
Realistically, what the Argentine government can do is very limited. It made contact with the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank. There is no Argentine diplomatic representation in Gaza, and at the same time it reached out to 2 countries, Egypt and Qatar, and the Red Cross, which could mediate in some way.
And so Michaela and other relatives of hostages wait and hope for news of their loved ones.
Larnaca in Cyprus is set to become a hub for international aid for Gaza. Cypriot officials have confirmed the efforts are on for a maritime aid corridor from the island's southern port of Larnaca to the Gaza Strip, and that it is currently on the home stretch. Israel has agreed to the plan, but technical issues remain to be resolved.
This is the heart of a plan by the Cypriot government to send international aid to Gaza. Larnaca port here is just under 400 kilometers away. The Cypriot government says Israel will not oppose the plan, as long as its officials can check what's loaded onto ships bound for Gaza.
Now we've proceeded from the political to the technical part of it. So we've seen that they support politically the implementation, the realization of the corridor, and now we're at the part where technical issues are being resolved.
Getting the aid ships out to sea should be simple enough. The biggest issue would be how to unload them in Gaza. The port there has not been fully functional since Israel's blockade from 2007, and Israel has bombed the area since the October 7th terror attack. The Cypriots' plan could build a temporary floating port just off the coast. They say this could dramatically speed up the delivery of aid. One ship can carry 500 times what a truck can. In Nicosia, the Cypriot Red Cross says it's in communication with the government and can move aid like this quickly.
We are ready at any time, and we have such warehouses smaller in all the districts. So we're ready at any time within the hour.
This command centre next to Larnaca Airport coordinates between 21 countries when it comes to evacuations from crisis zones. It's been operational since 2016. It's set to play a major role in the humanitarian aid corridor plans.
A certain precondition is to have a different security environment to be able to proceed with the implementation of this idea. But of course we are in contact parallelly to those preparations with all stakeholders involved.
France, Greece and the Netherlands are all keen to get aid moving here quickly.
Let's now get to the latest from the AI landscape. A report by Reuters has revealed that ahead of OpenAI CEO Sam Altman's temporary absence from the company, a group of researchers raised an alarm with the board. Their concern was focused on a powerful AI breakthrough that they believed posed a major threat to humanity. In the letter, the researchers flagged AI's prowess and potential danger, the sources said, without specifying the exact safety concerns that were noted in the letter. The sources cited the letter as one factor among a longer list of grievances that the board had, which led to Altman's firing. These researchers hold mathematics as a frontier in advancing generative AI. Presently, AI excels in tasks like predictive writing and language translation by anticipating the next word statistically. However, mastering mathematical problem solving where a single correct answer exists implies a significant leap in AI's reasoning capabilities and mirroring human intelligence. Sam Altman has reclaimed his position as the CEO of OpenAI after ousting the very board that had sacked him, leaving only Adam D'Angelo from the former team. Reports say the new board might comprise 9 directors, potentially including a Microsoft representative. While Altman hasn't been named as a member of the board yet, speculation lingers about his future inclusion. Notably, 3 board members who pushed Altman out are expected to step down. Greg Brockman, OpenAI's president and co-founder, celebrated their return with a team photo expressing their re-entry with enthusiasm. Meanwhile, joining D'Angelo and Brett Taylor, former Salesforce co-CEO, and Larry Summers, former US Treasury Secretary and Harvard University president. These are the people who are expected to be on the board of OpenAI next. American authorities say they have foiled a plot to kill Khalistani terrorist Gurpatwant Singh Pannu on American soil. The information was communicated to India, they say. The External Affairs Ministry has said the US had raised this information pertaining to a nexus between organized criminals, gun runners, terrorists and others. The MEA said the information received was a cause of concern for both countries and India takes it seriously. Pannu is a dual citizen of US and Canada. India's National Investigation Agency had recently filed a case against him after he threatened Air India. A clash erupted between Nihang Sikhs and police officials at Gurudwara Akal Banga in Kapurthala. A Punjab police constable was killed and 5 policemen injured when Nihang Sikhs in Kapurthala's Sultanpur Lodi area opened fire in the wee hours of Thursday. The constable who was killed has been identified as Jaspal Singh. He was posted at the Sultanpur Lodi police station. 2 of the Nihang groups have been at loggerheads for the past 3 days over the control of the Gurudwara Akal Banga, situated opposite the main Gurudwara Bear Sahib. However, the situation escalated early Thursday morning after the police tried to vacate the Gurudwara and asked the Nihang group fronted by Man Singh to leave. The members of the group began firing indiscriminately at the police, killing a police constable, as we said, and injuring at least 5 others who are currently in hospital. Tension prevails in the area before the birth anniversary of the first Sikh Guru, Guru Nanak, on the 27th of November. The Nihangs, who are heavily armed, have locked the Gurudwara from the inside. The police has barricaded the entire area and initiated talks with the group, asking them to vacate the premises. In some disturbing news from India's national capital, a 16-year-old boy stabbed a 17-year-old boy multiple times over a mere 350 rupees. According to the Delhi police, the incident took place on the 21st of November in the Welcome neighborhood of northeast Delhi. The police say the 16-year-old was drunk during the incident and even broke out into a frenzied dance while committing the horrendous murder that was recorded on the CCTV cameras in the area. In other news, the European Union has promised Ukraine 1 million rounds of artillery by March 2024. But as it stands, the bloc has delivered less than a third of that supply. Ammunition manufacturers say the problem starts way before it gets to them. Take a look at this report.
The challenges of weapons manufacturing may have come as an unpleasant surprise for politicians who promised Ukraine 1 million rounds of ammunition by next March.
It's not so that you can just drive a truck up to a defense company and just tell them how much you want and leave the same day. It's not like that.
Norway's Nammo is one of the world's leading suppliers of ammunition, with 27 manufacturing facilities across a dozen countries.
These steel tubes, still hot from the forging process, will become some of those coveted 155mm shells here at Nammo's Raufoss manufacturing facility. But what producers explain is that they can't fill orders they haven't received. And so the responsibility for this dramatic scale-up in output being expected doesn't start here.
While the number of contracts for ammunition has increased, that alone isn't enough to boost production to the levels that are needed. There are other obstacles hindering large-scale orders and joint procurement. For example, while NATO countries primarily use 155mm caliber guns and ammunition, there are 14 variations of these artillery shells because each country produces them with slight differences. Some industry leaders are calling for the standardization of defense products, even though these different specifications are seen as favoring manufacturers. But the CEO of Finland's Patria Group, Esa Rautalinko, says those days should be over.
The market is very protectionist, not just in Europe. I think it's a global phenomenon. And what the industry needs to realize is that if we are just sub-optimizing our own production capabilities, so things will not change fast enough. If we have different equipment that are not standardized enough, it means that it's a logistical nightmare.
NATO's top military official urges more cohesion at the political level, so supplies get to where they're needed at the tactical level.
We have to agree that we have to stop doing that, because a soldier in the field is not interested whether the artillery round comes from factory A, B or C in whatever country. They don't care. They just want the ammunition to be able to hit the target.
Nammo says it has more than tripled production in some areas over the last 2 years, and it's expanding its facilities. But what happens if demand drops dramatically after the end of the war in Ukraine? Nammo CEO Morten Brandtzæg is suggesting 10 to 15-year production contracts to deal with such future uncertainty.
I think we have to share the risk, because it's also very important that these defense companies, that they are kind of profitable and that we can reinvest in R&D.
Brandtzæg won't offer a prediction on whether there's any way some 700,000 more rounds of ammunition can be sent to Ukraine by March. He'll only say it will take his company much longer than that just to fill the orders it already has.
Fiji's Prime Minister Sitiveni Rabuka has revealed that the Pacific Islands nation is likely to collaborate with China on a key port modernization and shipyard project. The decision follows discussions with Chinese President Xi Jinping during the APEC forum that took place in San Francisco last week. Rabuka emphasized Fiji's alignment with China's vision for global security and noted that Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative aligns with Fiji's development agenda. As we said, this matter came up during the APEC summit last week that took place in San Francisco in the United States, which was attended in person by Chinese President Xi Jinping. And of course, US President Joe Biden was in attendance as well. A mysterious pneumonia has broken out in China with influenza-like symptoms, especially amongst children. The outbreak was first reported by Chinese authorities in the northern part of the country. The symptoms of this particular pneumonia still haven't been linked or identified to a known pathogen. The primary symptoms are fever, cough, difficulty in breathing, but this comes only with severe cases that require hospitalization. Reports have ruled out that this could be a novel coronavirus. The Chinese health authorities and the World Health Organization are looking for the cause and cure of this particular illness. The WHO has asked China to be vigilant and take measures to control the spike in cases. The WHO has requested China for more information about this outbreak. People in the affected areas have been asked to take precautionary measures by the WHO. There's also an emphasis on the need for robust public health systems and preparedness for emerging infectious diseases. Beating all predictions, the far-right Freedom Party of Geert Wilders has won the Dutch polls. Exit polls show his party winning 35 out of 150 seats, 10 seats ahead of the closest rival, former EU Commissioner Frans Timmermans' Labour-Green-Left combination. Wilders' parties will thus lead the next coalition government in the country. In the victory speech, Wilders vowed to bring an end to what he called a tsunami of asylum and immigration. However, forming a broad coalition led by Wilders faces challenges as leaders of other major parties have expressed their reluctance to join this coalition. After the 2021 election, it took more than 270 days to form a four-party arrangement. Listen in to what Wilders said after his win.
I'm in politics for 25 years now, and this is the happiest day of my life so far in politics. We became the #1 party by far. I mean, it's what a lot of people, if you would have asked them a year ago, would call you mad, and it happened today. So I'm very proud, I'm very happy, and it brings along a lot of feeling of responsibility. People expect our agenda of hope, tougher asylum and immigration policy, people getting more money to pay for their utilities and groceries.
VVD party leader Dylan Yeşilgöz was earlier tipped to win these polls. She admitted defeat, adding that her party did not offer enough workable solutions to the voters. Yeşilgöz admitted that the outcome of these elections in the Netherlands was disappointing. She conceded defeat just about an hour after exit polls announced that her rival was winning.
Let me start congratulating Geert Wilders from the Freedom Party, Frans Timmermans from PvdA, Labour, Pieter Omtzigt from centrist NSC, and of course the other winners. Well done. For us, the outcome was disappointing. I think politicians have big lessons to learn from this. We did not listen enough to the people, and we did not offer enough workable solutions. We don't get to take the initiative this time, but I am very proud of the party and all of you.
Republican candidates are gearing up for the crucial Iowa caucuses. Reports indicate that former President Donald Trump is the runaway favorite in the race for the Republican presidential candidature. Trump led his main rival and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis by about 10 points nationally, according to surveys. Trump's dominance in the presidential candidacy race is quite evident. At around 60% support, Trump seems virtually unbeatable, according to these surveys. Even in a one-on-one contest, challengers face a tough road against Trump. This lead grew notably after Mike Pence and Senator Tim Scott exited the presidential race. Scheduled for the 15th of January next year, the Iowa Republican presidential caucuses hold immense importance within the party primaries for the 2024 presidential elections. Trump's popularity in Iowa closely mirrors his national standing within the Republican Party, this despite all his legal troubles. Earlier this month, Europe's most powerful telescope, Euclid, beamed back its first images to Earth. And last week, the European Union held a summit to plan Europe's next steps exploring outer space. The European Space Agency hopes it's the beginning of an ambitious new era. Here's the story.
When it comes to unlocking the secrets of space, the European Space Agency is in pole position. This year it launched not one but two high-profile research missions. The first is Euclid. Its job is to measure exactly how the universe expanded 10 billion years ago. Recently, its first images were published. The job of the space probe JUICE is to investigate the possibility of extraterrestrial life on Jupiter's icy moons. Then there's Copernicus, the most ambitious program to observe planet Earth. In the future, ESA wants to do more than deliver satellite data. It also wants to use artificial intelligence to predict the consequences of environmental pollution and destruction. Another goal, to be a pioneer in the prevention of space junk. The plan is to extend the lifespan of ESA satellites and, after their mission, let them burn up without leaving a trace in the atmosphere. In 2026, the agency wants to catch a 112-kilogram piece of debris from a rocket for the first time. In manned space travel, however, ESA has never outgrown the role of junior partner for NASA. It currently supplies the so-called service module for the US's Orion capsule, along with important building blocks for a planned space station that will orbit the Moon. In exchange, European astronauts will likely be able to join NASA's missions to the Moon. 3 missions are currently under discussion. A huge problem for ESA is rockets. The agency is currently dependent on providers like SpaceX, as its own launch systems aren't ready yet. Ariane 6 is expected to lift off in 2024 at the earliest, 4 years behind schedule.
North Korea said earlier today it would deploy stronger armed forces and new weapons on its border with South Korea, a day after Seoul suspended part of a 2018 military accord between the two Koreas in a protest over Pyongyang's launch of a spy satellite. North Korea's defense ministry said in a statement that it would restore all military measures it had halted under the deal with South Korea. South Korea on Wednesday suspended part of the inter-Korean deal in response to Pyongyang's launch and said it would immediately step up surveillance along the border with the North. South Korea's Defense Minister Shin Won-sik attended a parliamentary session of the National Defense Committee.
The partial suspension of the September 19 military accord is a necessary measure to protect the lives and safety of our people. It is a corresponding measure against North Korea's provocations and a minimal defensive action.
The UN Refugee Agency has called on Pakistan to suspend the winter deportation of undocumented Afghan refugees. Many Afghans fear returning to Taliban-controlled Afghanistan. The United Nations has urged Pakistan to identify vulnerable individuals requiring international protection.
The UN Refugee Agency on Wednesday urged Pakistan to halt the deportation of undocumented Afghan refugees during the harsh winter season. Baba Baluch is the UNHCR regional spokesperson.
UNHCR is calling upon the government of Pakistan to halt these mass number of returns during this harsh season of winter, because the cold in Afghanistan is really deadly and it can take lives.
Thousands of Afghans have gone underground in Pakistan to avoid deportation, fearing for their lives if they return to Afghanistan, now run by the Islamist Taliban. In the southern port city of Karachi, where hundreds of thousands of Afghans live, police carried out door-to-door searches in refugee settlements on Tuesday.
Also, what we have seen since then, that the number of arrests, detention, and also mistreatment, and it has also exponentially gone up. This has been on the rise, and that's why we are making an appeal that any treatment of Afghans has to be humane.
Pakistan says harassment of documented refugees is rare and it is taking action against perpetrators. The UN agency has said the Afghans' return should be voluntary and that Pakistan should identify vulnerable individuals who need international protection. Pakistan is home to over 4 million Afghan migrants and refugees, about 1.7 million of whom are undocumented. Many came after the Taliban retook Afghanistan in 2021. A large number have been present since the 1979 Soviet invasion. Islamabad said last month it would expel over 1 million undocumented refugees, mostly Afghans, amid a dispute with Kabul over charges it harbors anti-Pakistan militants. Over 370,000 Afghans have fled Pakistan since October 1st. Islamabad has not entertained calls by international organizations and refugee agencies to reconsider its deportation plans.
Western Australia is battling a severe heat wave and intense bushfires. Authorities have cautioned that regaining control might take several days. Over 150 firefighters are battling the blaze currently. Hundreds of families have been evacuated. Emergency warnings have been issued for some regions in Perth. Residents in the path of the fire have been advised to immediately seek shelter away from the fire. Let's listen into what the authorities had to say.
At this stage, 10 homes have been lost, along with 4 sheds and numerous vehicles, including caravans. There's also damage to a range of infrastructure, including power poles. The forecast for today is unforgiving. The temperature is expected to hit a maximum of 40 degrees, and the winds continue to be strong. Today will be a difficult day for everybody involved, but again, I want to thank all of those who have done so much to keep damage to a minimum.
Bolivian firefighters face a mammoth task of controlling the fires ravaging thousands of hectares in the north of the country. The Bolivian government says the fires have consumed over 3 million hectares of the Amazon. Weather forecasts predict heavy waves heat waves, for the next few days, which has prompted the president to ask for international help to fight the fires. 30 Venezuelan firefighters are in Bolivia to support firefighting efforts. France too is sending 100 firefighters to the country. According to the Bolivian Environment Ministry, over 127,000 fire outbreaks were detected this month alone. In Pakistan's far north, a villager in Hunza Valley is on a mission to fight for the future of his village. The area is increasingly under threat from unstable lakes formed by the melting glacier. Here's a report.
In Pakistan's mountainous far north, 51-year-old Tariq Jamil is measuring the ice movements on a steep slope of glacier. His village, Hassanabad, is an hour's hike downstream, and the 200 families living there are increasingly under threat from unstable lakes formed by the melting glacier. Himalayan glaciers are on track to lose up to 75% of their ice by the century's end. And Jamil is on a mission to protect his village and their way of life. Jamil's village is part of the UN-backed GLOF 2 project, which helps communities downstream of melting glaciers adapt. Since 2017, weather stations and rainfall measuring sensors have been installed. When glacial lakes overfill or their banks become unsound, they burst, sparking deadly floods that washed out bridges and buildings and wipe out fertile land. The project has deployed speakers in villages to communicate warnings and infrastructure like stone and wire barriers that slow flood water. Jamil's village has had close calls from floods. Over the past 3 years, residents repeatedly evacuated just in time to avoid loss of life.
The first time we had GLOF, there was great fear among the local people because they did not know what to do, where to go. Gradually, ever since the attention of the government and NGOs turned towards us, I have been working in the community for 4 to 5 years now in connection with the issue. I have learned a lot myself and have also tried to make the people aware about the flood, what they should do before the flood, what to do during the flood, what the responsibilities of the community are.
The threat is all too familiar for Zahra Ramzan, who lives just a few hours away in Chalt village. She lost her 11-year-old son last year when he was swept away by a torrent of black water rushing down the valley. Residents said the village has had little information about the risk. Ramzan now gets nervous whenever there is heavy rain or flooding, refusing to allow her surviving children out of her sight.
Whenever there is a storm or any other natural disaster, I get very worried that someone else's children
may get into the same type of accident. If my children are outside somewhere and the weather gets bad, I become extremely tense and agitated.
According to a study, 15 million people worldwide are at risk of glacial lake flooding, with 2 million of them in Pakistan. Some 800,000 people in Pakistan live within about 9 miles of a glacier. With leaders gathering for the UN's COP28 climate summit, pressure is ramping up on wealthy countries to fulfill promises to help developing nations.
In some news just coming in, 2 terrorists, including a senior Lashkar-e-Taiba operative, have been killed in an encounter with the security forces in the Rajouri district of Jammu and Kashmir. The encounter between the terrorists and the joint forces of the army and the police continued for the second day in the Bajimal area of Rajouri. 2 officers and 2 jawans lost their lives in the encounter on Wednesday. The encounter broke out on Wednesday morning after the Indian Army and the Jammu and Kashmir police launched a coordinated search operation to trace the terrorists hiding in the area.
हार्ड रॉक देख के ऊपर से हॉरिजॉन्टल ड्रिलिंग हो तो जल्दी से जल्दी
Well, that's a wrap on the show. Thanks so much for watching.
China won't let us rest easy on our borders, but they will keep flooding our markets. What does Xi Jinping really want?
I think he wants the Indian market, no doubt about it. It's really a matter of showing their dominance.
India's great Chinese conundrum.
Nobody can contain it. Not the United States,